Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. Today I prepared a game by Raul Capablanca and he is playing against Dus-Chotimirsky. One last game that I'm going to show you from the Savorin Cup of 1913. Previously I've showed you a game where Capablanca for the first time in his life faced Alexander Alyekhin, his future rival and future world champion. So yeah, today I've decided to show you one more game from the Savorin Cup. A game where Capablanca, just gives a series of tactical blows to his opponent and later on wins the game in a great style. So let me just show you. We have e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. One of Capablanca's favorite, Ruy Lopez. a6, bishop to a4, and now knight to f6, castles, bishop to e7, and rook to e1. Going for the close setups of the Ruy Lopez. And after this we have b5, bishop to b3, and d6. Now c3, in those days people were kind of afraid of the immediate d4, so most of them just played knight to a5. Nowadays you would see probably castles or bishop to g4, but yeah, knight to a5 was the move. Bishop to c2 and c5 now, and d4 after this. They wanted to play c5 right away, and then after that bring the knight back to c6. Queen to c7, both of the sides don't want to exchange because this would mean opening up the d-file. Probably would suit black more, but black wants to improve on his position and then take on d4. Here white doesn't want to take because after castles and rook to d8, definitely black would enjoy the position more. We have knight from b to d2 and knight back on c6. Knight to f1, remaneuvering the knight on g3 or e3, and now c captures on d4. C captures and bishop to g4. My personal opinion is that for the most of the variations in Ruy Lopez, you don't want to allow that bishop to come to g4, and that is why I usually play h3 very early in the game. It is a move that is played in most of the variations, but I want to play it sooner so that I don't allow this bishop on g4. I much more like the black bishop to be on b7 because this gives me much better play with this knight here, knight to g3, and then threaten knight to f5. But okay, here Capablanca allows it, and that gives him a little bit of a headache because he has to play d5 here, and now after knight to d4 you are attacked twice here on f3 and bishop on c2. Bishop to d3, otherwise you will just lose it. So here, now it's a decision time. Essentially, do you want to give up one of the piece on f3 in order to double up the f-pawns and then create some sort of attack? Both nowadays and then players didn't consider that much of an advantage because in a sense king can always be played on h1. This knight can be used as a reasonable defender, and f4 can be played at any time. So people just didn't saw any kind of advantage there, so they didn't play it. We have castles instead of that, bishop to e3 and rook from a to c8. Now bishop captures, pawn captures, and a4. Also attacking on the queen side, as it always is good in chess, attack on both sides of the board. Queen to b6, captures on b5 twice, and now h3. I mean, a captures on b5, a captures on b5 from both sides, h3, pressuring this bishop in order to make him just make a decision. Do you want to keep the bishop pair, put him on g6 or something like that? Bishop to d7 doesn't really look good, and here Dus-Chotimirsky didn't want to keep the bishop pair. He played bishop to f3, queen to f3 because he had an idea, knight to d7. And now jumping on c5 or e5, first we have rook from e to c1 and now knight to c5, not allowing the exchange of rooks for at least one move, because here Capablanca just simply played b4, stopping knight to b3, and after knight move to a4 we have rook captures on c8. Rook captures on c8, and this is the critical moment in the game because here, as I mentioned, the series of tactical blow, the Avalanche starts here with the move e5. And the reason this move is played first to improve the position, because white, even though he is white and should look for some more open chances, here kind of looked cramped. And with the move e5, you're releasing your bishop and creating some chances. Here you cannot take the pawn because the simple queen to f5 attacking the rook on c8 and threatening to capture on h7. If you defend the rook or you move the rook, then simple checkmate follows, whatever you play. The problem is the bishop on e7. So essentially here nothing can be done after queen to f5, so you shouldn't take on e5. Here Dus-Chotimirsky played g6, stopping all of these threats, but now e6. And just in 2 moves, Capablanca managed to just attack fiercely on the king side of black and attack his defenses, because first black was forced to play g6 in order to weaken his position, and now also he will just lose one of his pawn defenders. Here, what happened now? Can you capture on e6? Not really. It isn't clear right away, but after queen to g4, black doesn't really have a good continuation. Here, a simple threat is queen to e6 with check, and you can pick up the rook. So you have to address it. Queen to d8 seems like a reasonable move, but then you also have bishop to g6. Pawn captures, queen captures, and after king to f8, you have rook to e1. The idea is not to capture on e6, but to have a rook lift and put the rook on g4, threaten a queen to g8 checkmate. You would have something like e5, rook to e4, then bishop putting it here to maybe block or something, but queen to f5, not allowing the queen block because rook is hanging on c8. King has to go somewhere, and after rook to g4, okay, king can also go on e8, doesn't really matter. You don't want to capture the bishop right away, you want to prepare it with queen to e6 and rook somewhere g6, g7 or g8. Here in this position, black wouldn't have that much chances. Instead of it, he could have also played king to h8, but after queen to e6 and queen to c7 defending the rook, you also have bishop to b5. And now after knight to c3, bishop just comes to d3, you have a passed b pawn, knight will come d2, f3, threaten capture on d4, and white is just better in this position. So you cannot capture on e6. Here rook to f8 is played. But now Capablanca brings another attacker in this game, knight to g3. And here there is a final mistake by Dus-Chotimirsky. He played queen to b7, queen to c7 was a much better move in this position, and you will quickly learn why. We have knight to f5, cannot capture because queen to f5 and queen to h7 is just a threat that cannot be dealt with. If you move the rook, then queen f7, queen h7 is a threat. So essentially what happens here, you would have to, instead of capturing, play something like capture on e6, which Dus-Chotimirsky played, and now pawn captures. And the capture is with the threat of capturing the queen. And this is why the queen on b7 is a bad move. Here, instead of that, queen to c7, there wouldn't be an attack, and just a simple take with the pawn would suffice for black to even have a better game. So here, if queen captures, then simple knight captures with check, king g7, and you capture the queen. Black is worse, he lost a piece. Instead of that, queen to c7 was played. But now Capablanca once again shows us why we love him so much, and he plays queen to c6. Once again, he wants to sacrifice a queen in his game to win the game beautifully. Now if queen captures, then once again knight to e7 forks the king and queen, queen g7 and knight to c6. But okay, here Dus-Chotimirsky decided not to capture the queen. Of course, didn't want to lose the game right away, so he played queen to d8. Have knight to e7, queen to e7, and bishop to b5. Knight to c3, and now queen to d7, going for the exchange of queens. When you're better, you exchange pieces. Queen captures and bishop captures, and now already in this position with 2 passed pawns and 2 very dangerous passed pawns, black already could have resigned, but he decided to play on. So he played rook to b8 and e7, king to f7, not allowing, giving up just rook, so giving up the exchange instead of that, but rook to e1 first. We have now rook to e8, because once again, if the pawn is pushed, then you lose the whole rook, and now bishop captures, king captures, and rook to e6. Now the whole point of this situation is, okay, first of all, white is just winning, and black doesn't have time to actually promote, because rook to d6, and then you pick up the other pawn, and if at any moment he moves the king, then you have e8 queen. So now we have d5, king to f1, going for In order to win the game, white just needs to bring the king into the game to improve his position and help this pawn to be promoted. We have knight to b5, king to e2, and knight to c7. Rook to e5, the rook was attacked, and now knight to a6. b5, knight to b4, and b6. Now d3 with check, king to d2, and now for some reason king to d7 was played, allowing e8 queen, king goes to d6, and now queen to e7 check, king to c6, and queen captures on b4. In this position, Dus-Chotimirsky decided to resign the game. Quite simply, the reason is checkmate in 3 is following, so if you want you can try to find it. It isn't that hard. On the other hand, I will just finish this video. So this is the last game I'm going to show you from the Savorin Cup. In the end, Capablanca didn't manage to win the Savorin Cup of 1913 because, as the rule stated, he mustn't have, so he shouldn't have lost at least one game, so he had to win all the games, but in the end, out of 6 games, he won 5 and lost 1 against Borovsky, so he won 2 games against Alikhin, 2 games against Dus-Chotimirsky, and lost 1 game to Borovsky and also won 1 game against him. So yeah, didn't much bother him because in the end he said that up until that game he won at least 30 games against opponents of considerable strength. So essentially not a big deal for him, so he just continued on. And essentially what will happen is that he will continue to travel Europe, play in exhibition matches, playing all around, just playing in all the places where he visits, and yeah, just enjoy chess. So that being said, I will definitely also come back with one of those games. But that being said, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.